one thing that did really affect me was when my sister died of a heroin overdose. The same year I started the painkillers. She passed away, and she OD'd on heroin. So that was the toughest thing I had to deal with. And when that happened, that's when I started really taking a lot more painkillers.
Mikey.
Jason.
It's true. It's damn true. On the Knockin Doorz Down podcast, Kurt Angle, how are you, good sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
You look amazing. I follow
you. You're making me feel really bad about myself. I feel like I need to get
just try to take care of myself as I get older.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of great things we're going to talk about. Of course, we want to talk about your recovery process. To me, without knowing, and a mentor and an inspiration to me, as I've been a fan of yours all the way back from your amateur wrestling days and Olympic competition throughout professional wrestling and so on. But how are you doing now? You got so many great projects going on. Let's fill people in on those a little bit before we get into some of the nuts and bolts.
Well, I have a fitness, or I should say a supplement company called Physically Fit Nutrition. We sell these chicken snacks. They're engineered from chicken breast, and they are made into a Chex mix type of texture. And we flavor them with different flavors: sriracha, honey barbecue, buffalo wing blue cheese, cinnamon swirl. They're really good. It's a great product. So we've been busting that out for the last 6 months and trying to make it work.
Yeah. If people want to find out more about that, where can they go?
Go to physicallyfit.com. You can follow them on Physically Fit Nutrition, at Physically Fit Nutrition on Instagram.
Excellent. Very cool. Excellent. Well, a lot of the stuff that when we put out, we were going to talk with you, Kurt, people really want to know of. There's a great question, an individual by the name of Tom. He wanted to get your perspective on how you're doing with sobriety now. Obviously, you probably still even have some of the residual pain, which we want to get into a little bit later. But how are you doing with that? Does therapy play a part into it? And just really overall, how are you dealing with that day in and day out, the people that may not understand of those of us that have suffered with addiction, how we deal with it?
Well, when I first got out of rehab, it was a struggle. I was so scared of messing up again that I literally did not mess up. So, it was really hard. But every year it got a little bit easier and a little bit easier. The longer you're in your recovery, the easier it gets. It's never easy completely, but it gets easier as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, do you find that, being able to focus on new projects like you're doing now, obviously, you're a family man, lovely wife, 5 kids, or is it 6 kids?
I have 6 kids. Yes.
Right.
2 to my first marriage and 4 to my second marriage. One's adopted. But I spend a lot of time with them. That's how I take up my time during the day, is I spend a lot of time with my kids and my wife. We do a lot of events together and try to make this virus thing less boring. So,
yeah.
we do whatever we can to entertain each other. And with that, I've also stayed busy with my supplement business. I was in WWE for up until last year. I retired. So that's long gone for me. But right now I'm working on a TV show that WWE will possibly do, and I'm pretty excited about that.
That is cool. Is there anything more you can tell us about it, or for now that's all Kurt can say? I
can't tell you much about it right now. No.
You know what?
Yes.
I always had a question too. So you retired from the WWE. do you still watch it, or is it kind of like you miss it so you can't watch it, or how does that work for you
You know what?
personally?
I couldn't watch it for a little while. After I retired, it was hard to watch.
Sure, I can
But
imagine.
I started watching this year, and I have a lot of friends that are still in it, so I keep in touch with them.
Sure.
And I have an interest in pro wrestling, just like I do amateur wrestling. It's always going to be, a huge interest of mine. So
Absolutely.
I just, I'm also doing a podcast. I'm starting it tomorrow. So
Nice.
I kind of had to start watching the wrestling. I watched WWE, Raw, and SmackDown, and AEW, and try to keep up with the current events of wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's exciting. I guess, I'll be one of your early subscribers because, I think beyond anything related to recovery and overcoming adversity, that's my next addiction. I know probably a little too much about the profession for, never having actually been in the ring other than falling and go, son of a bitch, that hurts just to take a flat back.
Taking a bump, yes, bumps hurt.
Oh,
A lot of
yeah.
people don't realize how much it affects you. It's, it definitely does long-term damage, if you know what I mean. I'm hurting from it, now in my life, being over 50 years old, my body's pretty beat up. So I have to do a lot of maintenance training.
Is the neck one of the primary areas for people that don't know? I mean, this story is infamous, as you always said, won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck, which was in 96. And of course,
Yes.
Documented that you were having to get Novocaine shots at that time.
Yeah, I got a healing agent before the Olympics. I broke my neck at the US Open, and the Olympics came around a couple of months later. And I had to get a healing agent. It wasn't a steroid because that's illegal in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
But they also decided to bring a doctor with me to my events. And he would stick me in the neck with 12 shots of Novocaine. So I couldn't feel the pain while I was wrestling. And an hour later, I was in excruciating pain. So
I can imagine.
I suffered dearly, but, I made it through, and I had to go for the Olympics. I mean, it was might have been my only opportunity. So I had to follow through with it. Even risking, permanent damage to my neck, it didn't matter. I wanted it so badly that I was going to go for the Olympic gold medal.
Yeah. Well, can we touch a little bit too on some of the interesting stuff that occurred around that time? That people may not know, your alignment with David Schultz, who you said was a mentor really after your father's passing. I think you were about 16 when your father had an unfortunate accident at work, if I recall.
Yes, he had a construction accident. He fell off a scaffold, landed on his head, and cracked his head, his skull, and broke both of his shoulders. And by the time he got to the hospital, he was in a coma. So there was no way of saving him. It was a pretty sad event.
Yeah. Well, and was that a really tumultuous? Obviously, I couldn't imagine going through that. Of course, you're one of many siblings in the Engel family, and probably the stress upon, let alone your mom and all of your siblings. What was that like for you then? What was it like to have David Schultz come into your life as a mentor, Olympic wrestler himself, and train you?
Well, my dad, he was the one that got me into sports, and he was very interested in sports. We all had to play sports. That was a must in our family. And my dad worked very hard, 12 hours a day. He was a laborer, and he also he basically went to every one of my sporting events. He was really adamant about that. So he was a good father from that perspective. the issue was when he wasn't working or at my sporting event, he was drinking. And, he would drink till he passed out. So I didn't spend a lot of time with him. I didn't really get to know him. Not very affectionate man. He always said, no hugs, shake hands like a man. So he was kind of a man's man, and I never got really attached to him. And, when I lost him, it hurt, but, I realized that, I didn't want to be him. Not that he wasn't a good dad, he really was, but I didn't want to be that guy that would pass out every night when they're, after supper, when the kids are home and they could spend time with their parents. So, it was tough, but, not being, having that relationship with my father, I wasn't quite as attached.
Sure.
But Dave came in, I started on Foxcatcher in 1988. And that was the club where Dave was murdered by the heir, John du Pont. And Dave was great. He taught me so much about wrestling and about life. He was a great role model, someone I very much looked up to. I learned everything from him. And, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have won the gold medal. But he got murdered 6 months before the Olympics. So I was kind of on my own after that because I separated myself from the club. I didn't want the blood money. So I decided to quit the club, and which DuPont was still running it because he wanted people to think that we were taking advantage of him when he was, mentally not right. So it was the best thing was for me to leave. But Dave was awesome. He taught me enough that before the Olympics, 6 months before, I could teach myself the rest of the time. He taught me enough that I was able to educate myself what I need to do to get ready for the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, and of course, people, if they haven't seen there is a lot of a great film, of course, the Foxcatcher on the whole situation. But how did you? I couldn't imagine with someone losing your dad, although not emotionally connected, like you said, a man's man, which I can relate there. That an individual said that our parents' era. I'm not that much younger than you, Kurt, but that they were just emotionally immature, especially men, that there wasn't that. But then you have this mentor that come in, and then it's another tragedy. How did you maintain a mental and emotional focus with this loss? Because it wasn't that long of a time from losing your father than losing David either.
It was hard to deal with. I just had to suck it up. I mean, losing Dave, I got a little scared because I didn't know who I was going to turn to. I mean, we had other coaches, so that wasn't really an issue, but Dave was special and he was very unique. And, I probably was hurt as badly about Dave as I was about my dad, considering I had no connection with my father, but I love my father very much.
Yeah.
But I had a connection to Dave that was a little better than my dad, much stronger than my dad. So, we were really good friends, and he was a great father figure for me.
$51.50 apparel, lifestyle with a purpose.
Well, let's talk about, so after winning the Olympic gold medal, there you were, the WWE, WWF at the time reached out for you to take on professional wrestling. And what was your initial reaction? I mean, you've shared some of the stories before, but let's flash back to that moment as opposed to your perspective on professional wrestling now.
Well, after I won the Olympics, I went on a media tour, and I was doing, the Jay Leno show, Conan O'Brien show, just doing all the media, Regis and Kathy Lee. And during that time, WWE, Vince McMahon called my agent and said they were interested in giving me a 10-year contract, a multi-million-dollar contract. And my agent brought me into his office and he said, "You're not going to do this. This is fake wrestling. You're the real deal. I don't want you doing it." So I said, "Okay, but that's a lot of money." He said, "We'll get you something else." And well, he did. He got me a sportscasting job in Pittsburgh for Fox. And I did that for a year. Didn't work out very well. But I turned down the offer from Vince, and I spent the year doing broadcasting. And about a half a year after that, and right around 1998, I decided to contact WWE and ask if that offer still stood. And they said, I talked to Jim Ross, who was the talent relations director at the time. And he said, "No, you're going to have to come and try out." And I said, "Oh, I'm used to that. I'm used to proving myself. So I'll do it." So I passed up a great money opportunity, but I ended up doing pretty well anyway. And I made just as much money as I would have made, even if I would have started in 96. So I went up and tried out. And the first day I just picked up on everything so quickly, the bumping and the selling. And they offered me a deal right away. And it wasn't a multi-million-dollar deal.
I was just going to say, was it the same what they originally offered you?
No, $75,000 a year. That was the offer.
Wow. So,
and it's good money. It's not great money, but it's good money. But I had to travel. So the WWE and these companies, they don't pay for your hotel and rental car and food. They pay for the hotel or the airfare only. So you have expenses, and that 75,000 didn't last very long. Mm-hmm. So that was when I started. I was training. They were paying me $75,000. After a year, I started on TV and started getting paid more. The guaranteed stayed the same, but the more you work, the more money you make. So, you do 300 dates a year, you're gonna make a great amount of money. I mean, you're at least getting $1,000 for each show, and that's a low end. We're, pay-per-views are getting a lot more money. So, and TV is a lot more money. So it was tough at the beginning, but once I started on TV, everything got better.
Yeah. Well, I remember it so well when you were first coming out, and I was still one of those guys that was fans of the white meat baby face. Like even when The Rock came out, when you first came out, and I'm like, this is so cool, an Olympic gold medal, and then here they are, people are booing you. How did you handle that? Because it's such a different situation going from, hey, when you were out there in the real arena of the Olympics as opposed to the entertainment form, but it's like, what the fuck? I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Why are you booing me?
Well, Vince planted a seed. We did a bunch of pre-tapes before I started, and they were like motivational videos. They were really cheesy, and you looked at me and said, this guy is maybe too good to be true. And it was one of those things where Vince made the fans not really trust me and think, there's something weird about this guy. And, preaching the 3 I's, intensity, integrity, and intelligence. And, telling everybody I'm their Olympic hero and I came to save them. And, it just made the fans sick. And it worked extremely well. Vince used the same ingredients he did for The Rock. But with The Rock, he wanted him to be a babyface, and the fans turned on him right away. So he used the same ammo to make the fans turn on me, but he wanted them to. He wanted me to be a heel. So he knew that eventually I would be a babyface, but he wanted to start me out as a heel. And it worked extremely well. The promos, I was ignorant and, idiotic. I was goofy and, sometimes pretty entertaining, but at times I was getting on people's nerves. So it was a lot of fun. It was the funnest time I had. My very first year on TV. I couldn't wait to get to TV every week. It was just something new every week. Whether it was a great promo or a great match or a pay-per-view match, or it was a lot of pre-tapes I did that were funny and entertaining, and it was just so much fun. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was really cool.
And it showed through even still to this day, which I think he had one of the best closings of a Hall of Fame speech ever. And then doing the milk like he did when you mocked Stone Cold Steve Austin's beer toast. And it was great stuff. Did it affect you psychologically, or did Vince really lay it out for you that, hey, this is what we're doing. Keep in mind, it's entertainment. They're booing you, take it the same as cheers? Because some people, I know for me, I'm kind of a fragile guy. If I was put in that position as like people booing me, I don't know how I would have handled it.
You'd be upset.
You know what? I didn't care. I was just doing my job.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it at all? Or were you just so zoned in on what you had to do and all that?
No, in pro wrestling, you need to show emotion. You need to show fans. So you have to respond to their cheers and boos, whether you're happy or you're angry, or pissed off at the fans for them booing you or whatever. It was, it wasn't easy, but you get used to it. Everybody in the business actually wants to be a heel.
Wait, sorry. So what's a heel?
Bad guy.
Heel's a bad guy and the baby face is a good guy.
Yes.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So it's just a lot more fun to be ignorant and, insult people, having them respond negatively. It was pretty cool. You feel like you created something that wasn't there. And that's a good tribute to me. I mean, I did it right by at least I thought so.
Yeah. Well, because it's one of those things that maybe people don't understand about the profession, that it is, it is athletics, it's performance art, it's entertainment, all wrapped in one. And an example of how much the fans are such a huge interaction of that is when the "You Suck" chant started to your entrance music.
Yes, that all started when Edge came up to me and apologized to me in a pre-tape, and he had these signs where they were pictures of me winning the world title, and on the back of it would say "You suck," and I'd be holding it, and the arrow would be pointed toward me, and Edge came out and did a promo the next week and said, "These fans shouldn't chant Angle during your music, they should chant "You suck," because the theme of my song, da-da, Angle, or "You suck." So the fans started chanting that, and I acted like I was so pissed off that every week they were doing it louder and louder. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a real badge of honor for sure.
That's crazy how people would want to be a bad guy, because I remember watching it as a kid, and you would see 5 or 6 heels, if you will, just beating somebody up, right? And you're just waiting. You see the fans start looking this way when you're watching it, but once you heard the whoosh, and then Austin would run out, I always thought it was cool to be like the baby face. Everyone loves you, you're the hero, but everyone wanting to be the heel, I wouldn't expect that. That's crazy.
Well, it's just it's a little more challenging, and it's less pressure.
That's
when you're a baby face and you don't get over as a baby face, meaning get popular, you're most likely going to lose your job. So
that makes sense.
Being a heel is, if the fans don't like you and you're a heel, at least they don't like you for real, but being a heel is working. So it's just easier to accept than being a baby face and nobody responding to you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would imagine it'd be super easy to be healed. Just whatever city you're in, just say like, California, you suck. You know what I mean? Just something like that.
Yeah.
Automatically, everyone in California hates you.
Very, very easy. You pick on
Yeah.
their sports teams. You
Yeah,
tell the fans
exactly.
how much they suck. Yeah, it's
Sports
pretty
teams,
basic, but it works. It works
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, there's a lot of basics to it, but you had so many great nuances just to your natural personality, and of course, including you. I don't know how you developed it. I don't know if you've always had a great sense of humor your whole life, but you just had great comedic timing. I mean, a lot of the, you got it in the background for those that are watching this on the YouTube. The little cowboy hat, the shit you
Yeah.
did with Steve Austin with that. You just developed this comedic timing that was so dry that we're talking to you and you're such a jovial person, but it was so dry. That was there anyone that you kind of emulated that humor after, or you just kind of found your own rhythm?
Well, I didn't even know I had the personality. I wasn't a goofy person. I wasn't a funny kid. When I started in WWE, they just kind of formed a character that I connected to. And it was, it wasn't that easy. It was, it was hard to adapt to, but once I got the ball rolling, I was good to go. I mean, it's, once you're in that zone and you're focused on what character you're going to be and how you're going to portray it, you just do your thing, and it worked extremely well.
Yeah.
Rewinding just a little bit, Kurt. So when you first decided to pursue the WWF at the time, now WWE, were you a little bit hesitant just due to the neck problems you had suffered previously in the Olympics? Like, did that kind of worry you? Like, nah, I know this is going to suck when I'm older, but going into the WWE, did that cross your mind? Like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, we'll see.
You know what? I took a year and a half off before I started back or went to WWE. So my neck was completely healed.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't an issue. But I ended up breaking my neck 4 more times in WWE. So that's when the painkillers started, and the drinking and everything. So it was, I got introduced to painkillers the second time I broke my neck, which was the first time in WWE, was in 2003. And I was introduced to painkillers by a doctor, and I loved it. The second I took it, I was hooked. I would take one every 4 or 6 hours, and after a few weeks, that didn't work. So I doubled it to 2, then I doubled it to 4, then doubled it to 8. And as time moved on, I got myself in such a huge ditch. I was taking 65 extra strength Vicodin in a day. And it was an expensive drug habit. It was, I was spending a lot of money getting these, and I struggled quite a bit. So I didn't get it under control till I left the WWE in 2006. And I got my painkiller problem at least under control, where I was taking morphine sulfate, 1 pill twice a day. The only problem was I ended up going to a smaller company so I could work part-time instead of being full-time in WWE. And everybody there drank. They drank alcohol. So, when I started, I started drinking with them, and my addiction went from, one thing to another, from painkillers to alcohol. And then I started taking Xanax because I had a lot of, I was very nervous about my neck. I mean, I did break it 5 times total. Yeah. So I was having a lot of anxiety, and I wanted to, the doctor told me to take the Xanax. And so I started mixing alcohol with Xanax, and before you knew it, I would say in 5 years in TNA, I got 4 DUIs. I was out of control. Didn't take any responsibility. my wife told me, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to leave you unless you go to rehab. And I was going to lose my family and my job. And I didn't want that to happen. So I checked into rehab in 2013, and I've been clean ever since.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, people don't really understand of how the pills like Vicodin and things can really take hold of you, because like you said, you build up a tolerance. And one of the things that still amazed me, I know when I went to shit, Kurt, with alcohol, I was a nighttime drinker and just, almost couldn't function the next day because of the DTs, and definitely my physical health, any exercise routine and all that went to hell. Did you kind of have that same struggle where you started having days off, or was it already a total mode? Because, you're just one of those kind of superhuman people, because I followed you from WWE to TNA and back too, where you were still performing, as far as I could tell from an onlooker, at an amazing level.
Well, I didn't drink alcohol before my matches, or, if I took any painkillers or pills or whatever, I did it earlier in the day, and then I would do it after the event. So it didn't affect my work. It only affected the rest of my life, which, was more important than anything else. But I had to, I had a hard time with it. It was really difficult for me.
Yeah. If you don't mind my asking, what did the Xanax get up to daily? You're at 65 a day for Vicodin. How was it? Pretty right around the same? No, it couldn't have been 65 Xanax a day. That'd be
no. I didn't. I only took. I would take a Xanax in the morning, and then I would save the rest for the evening when I drank, which was 3. I was taking 4 a day, so I'd throw 3 down and drink the 12-pack of beer. So I got pretty high, and it was a huge mistake, but something it made me stronger in the long run.
Yeah,
right.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it was, of course, one of the things we always want to point out of the positive side of recovery for anyone.
The Knockin Doorz Down autobiography by Carlos Vieira. It takes you deep into his destructive past and how racing saved his life and opened the door to give back to the community. And 100% of the sales go directly to the Carlos Vieira Foundation, an organization committed to raising awareness for addiction, mental health, and autism. And for inspiration and motivation, tune in weekly to the podcast every Thursday for real-life episodes from celebrities and local heroes. Get Knockin Doorz Down today at kddmediacompany.com or Amazon.
When you went into rehab, you talked about your dad as a man's man and not wanting to emulate him, the drinking in front of, you and your siblings, your mom. How did you have to get really vulnerable and start tapping into emotions? Because clearly you had some traumas. I mean, you loved your dad, maybe not the strong emotional as far as him, that one-on-one, losing David, who Schultz, who was murdered. Was it a new thing for you, kind of therapy coming from, that generation, a man's man, just deal with it, bearing down, where you were finally having to communicate emotions and feelings? And
well, I was, I didn't get really affected from my dad and Dave. The one thing that did really affect me was when my sister died of a heroin overdose. The same year I started the painkillers. She passed away, and she OD'd on heroin. So that was the toughest thing I had to deal with. And when that happened, that's when I started really taking a lot more painkillers. And her death really affected me. That was one that I had a hard time with.
Yeah. So it's definitely that and it's a lot of those that don't suffer with addiction may not understand per se, but we are trying to so much escape our reality as is.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get away. I wanted to be numb all day and all night. It was was very difficult. And I was in a really bad marriage too. And, you know, when I was home, I was always high because I didn't want to deal with the marriage. So that affected me quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Me and Jason know about bad relationships, huh?
Just a little bit, you know, but own my contribution to said bad relationships. You know, I'm kind of, my drinking definitely fucked up, you know, was a contributor to my divorce and then my other long-term relationship post-divorce. You know, those poor ladies are still gracious to me to this day, but you know,
that's incredible.
I said the same thing, Kurt. It's fucking weird. I don't get it.
Because they know I'm not a
weird.
they know I'm not a total prick when I'm sober. It's when I'm drinking that I'm the asshole, you know.
I'm a total prick when I am sober.
I highly doubt that.
Yeah, you seem like a nice guy. Guy who can kill me in one hit, but you seem nice.
Yeah. Don't ever. It was funny. We had some people asking questions. You know, they're like, "Have Kurt put you in the ankle lock." I'm like, "Well, unfortunately, we're not doing it in person with him, and I ain't letting him do that shit. I don't even care if it's a working move. Ain't no way."
I know. A, we're not doing it in person, and B, no.
No.
Why the fuck would I have him put me in an ankle lock? I'd rather get a picture with him and an autograph or something, but not an ankle lock.
So Kurt, I want to ask you, you did a great appearance with Stone Cold on the WWE network and made reference to, you know, Goldberg coming back and having another run, but near the top of our conversation, we're pretty much done. Now we're not going to see another run of maybe Kurt with the gold, and you know.
Probably not. My body's pretty beat up. Right now I'm just trying to stay healthy and keep my body healthy. And, you know, I have a lot of pain in my knees, my back, my neck, shoulders. It's pretty difficult. You know, I paid the price for a long ass career. I wrestled amateur for 20 years and I wrestled pro for 20 years, and it's taken a toll on me. Amazing toll on me.
So when you wake up every morning, 1 being the least, 10 being excruciating, what's the good day for you today?
I wake up feeling good.
Oh, good.
My body gets worse as the day goes on. So
right.
the gravity is the problem. It makes the joints start to hurt, and so it you know, waking up isn't so bad. It's the end of the night, the end of the day, that I just want to get back in bed and lay down. When I wake up, I do a bunch of maintenance training. I do my neck traction, the rollers for my legs and back, and anti-gravity machine. Then I have a massage gun I use. I do a lot of stuff. I do these sandbags where my legs are bent. They won't straighten out completely because of my knee injuries. So I'm trying to get them to straighten out as much as I can. And I use the sandbags, the 25-pound sandbags, put on my knees while I have them between 2 chairs. And it's, you know, I do a lot of stuff. I go to the gym and stretch and lift and do cardio. I spend a lot of time of the day doing the maintenance training.
Now, is that doing that maintenance training? Does that really help with the part of maintaining your sobriety through a lot of this pain? That was a question that several listeners wanted to know.
Repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Someone came into the room.
Now, does focusing like you do every day, I mean, it just sounds incredibly disciplined. Again, you know, for those who can't see it or maybe watching on YouTube, Kurt, you still look amazingly jacked, in amazing shape. I've never been in close to that good a shape at any point in my life. But is focusing like that, does that help you give a real target? Because like, for instance, in, you know, Carlos Vieira's book, we're going to send you Knockin Doorz Down. For him, he got involved in racing stock cars, and it gave him a focus away from everything else. For me, it was taking on different things like jujitsu and archery and different stuff, does that really kind of help you focus that you have this regimen to not have any sort of relapse of any kind?
Oh, without a doubt. You know, the busier you are, you know, working on your body and doing things during the day and trying to do certain things at night, it's really important. When you stay busy, when you keep your mind, you know, focused on something important, you don't think about, relapsing. You're worried about the task at hand. And the training definitely helps me stay clean, but it also scares the hell out of me because, you know, the pain I go through is, you know, sometimes it's just unbearable. And, you know, of course I want to take something, but I just won't do it. I refuse to take another drug. So I do I do the best I can and try to stay focused on positive things.
And what kind of support system do you have when it's a hard day? Is it turning to the missus? Is it just the time with the kids, or do you have external people from the home? You know, was NAAA ever part of that? Therapy, continual therapy, any of that stuff?
I did AA for a couple years, and it just it worked for me. But you know, there are a lot of people there that, you know, just wanted my autograph and, you know, were excited. I felt like a distraction. So I started an app called Angle Strong, where I would bring people together and have a monthly meeting call with them and talk about my addiction and my recovery and my sobriety, and talk about their addictions, recovery, and sobriety. That helped me quite a bit. But the app didn't really work that well. We had about 300 individuals on the app, but the doctor that created it wanted to charge people monthly, and that didn't work. So ever since the app, we stopped that about 3 years ago. I just been talking to my wife, communicating with my brothers who've had problems with alcohol and drugs. They're a great support system. My family's a great support system. So they know the right things to say, especially when I'm hurting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we got a couple of questions from listeners here. Zach wants to know, what is your favorite WWE match?
Hell, I wanted to know that too.
Mine personally, like when I was in, or a match?
Yeah, your personal favorite match you were in.
Mm-hmm.
My personal favorite, I have three of them. It's really hard to pick. Royal Rumble 2003 for the world title against Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
It was a magical match. Chris Benoit was a mirror image of me. He was really intense, very physical, very technical. I really enjoyed working with him. You know, unfortunately, the situation with him and his family was just very sad. But I'd say Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 21.
Oh, great match.
Or Undertaker No Way Out 2006. All of those three matches were my best three performances.
Yeah. Who was Jason, the host of Knockin Doorz Down, wants to know, who surprised you as one of the toughest son of a bitches in the ring?
Well, you know, The Rock. He wasn't just athletic. He was a really tough guy. He he was physical, and you know, knowing him and, you know, how good looking he is and how charming he is, he's a badass. He really is. And when he gets mad, he really, you know, he's gonna let you know. It's pretty cool. But Stone Cold Steve Austin is another badass. He, of course, you could tell he is. So
for sure.
that's pretty transparent. Undertaker, one of the toughest dudes I ever met. he can fight. That guy is, he, like one time on an airplane, we were flying home from an international trip, and Vince McMahon kept, jumping on me while I was sleeping, trying to wrestle. And I would hold him down and say, "Are we good?" And he'd say, "Okay, we're done." And he kept doing it. So after about 10 times, I got him down, and Undertaker woke up and saw me on Vince. He thought I was beating him up. And he came behind me, picked me up, and started choking me out. I was like, holy shit. And
it's a fucking joke.
Yeah. So he got me. He got me with good with that one. But Undertaker is one of the toughest guys I've ever met. He really is.
I was thinking about this in my head of how I was going to ask you, like, were you ever intimidated fighting people like The Undertaker being as big as he was, or Kane, or like Viscera? He scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. That dude was just, he just scared me. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you probably weren't, because you're a fucking gold medalist. Like, this is what you do. Well, like, you're not afraid of nobody. So I guess.
Well, I'm a gold medalist. Okay, that's a plus. I know how to protect myself. I know how to fight.
Sure.
But I personally knew these guys and their personalities, the real personality.
Right.
So it wasn't that hard to switch it off and say, Undertaker isn't really Undertaker. He's Mark Calloway. Right. And, Kane is not Kane. He's Glenn Jacobs. And
right.
It's just, you get to know them personally and you become friends with them. You're not really affected by their characters.
Right. This is just us looking into your world. You know what I mean? Like when I think of Undertaker, I think of just, the bells and then the low hat, and then he went to American Badass and then back. But it was just like, I can't imagine being in the ring with that big dude. Like, it's just,
yeah.
But yeah, that puts
he can go too.
Yeah.
He's one of the best athletes I've ever wrestled. He could fly. He's done head first dives over the top rope outside the ring. Right. His athleticism is just incredible. He's the full package.
Yeah, the legit 6'9", 6'10", over 300 pounds, and he's doing this.
Yeah, without a doubt, you're right.
Yeah. Well, and people don't understand, maybe for those that are, that are not as much in wrestling and haven't worked around it, there's a few times I saw where somebody got a potato. For those who don't know, that's really clocking a guy a little more than you were supposed to. Yeah, and then the receipt comes, which is that return hit. Do you have any funny stories about maybe potatoing someone and getting a receipt?
No, you know what? Usually when I stiff someone, they would just say, "Gosh darn, you stiffed me. You're killing me." Nobody ever stiffed me back. I don't know if it was a respect factor or what it was, but I was pretty stiff in the ring. I was, I laid it in, and a lot of guys knew that beforehand. So, and they respected me, and I never hurt anybody or tried to hurt anybody. Actually, I did hurt one person, Bob Holly. I moonsaulted and I landed on his wrist and broke it. But other than that, I've been pretty injury free with my opponents. But I just, I was very snug, and the boys respected me, and there wasn't a problem.
Yeah. Well, and as a guy that's, I don't know how many hundreds of live wrestling matches and events I've been to, is it, you would watch those people, and the performers that were totally in and bought in and believed in what they were doing too, that there was a night and day difference between that and the guys half-assing it. It shows.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you gotta look as real as possible. You have to make the fans believe it's real. And most of it is not real. I mean, the bumping's real, the slamming, but all the punches and kicks, you pull them, and but it's it's a great art. It's you have to perfect it. It's a craft, like anything else, a career that you have. And I crafted pretty well. I picked it up quickly, and the psychology took a while. My first world title, I beat The Rock. I still didn't know what I was doing. I started on TV 10 months prior, so I was only training and wrestling for a year and 10 months. And he had to call the whole match to me in the ring. It was, but after that, I started picking up the psychology and learning, how to map out the match and get the fans more interested and intrigued.
$51.50 Apparel, lifestyle with a purpose.
Well, Kurt, before we give you the final words of an encouragement for those that are maybe entering sobriety or through recovery, trying to maintain it, especially during these COVID times, we've been seeing a lot of folks relapsing, and that's the group we're always trying to reach when we talk to them and tell these great stories. We like to ask some fun rapid fire questions. I mean, just kind of think off the top of your head and have fun with it. All right.
Okay.
You're up, Mikey.
Okay.
If you could travel anywhere in time, but you had to stay there, where would it be and why?
So it could be past, the future, a particular place.
Oh gosh, I would say that's tough. I would say the day Jesus was born. I would love to be back then.
And why is that?
Yeah, seeing I'm a Christian and a big believer in God and Jesus, and always am fascinated by it. And I read my prayer book every day, and I do sermons on Sunday. I watch sermons on Sunday, most of it because the churches have been closed up. They just started up a bit. So my faith is the most important thing.
Awesome. So for a lot of people out there that are maybe entering sobriety, oftentimes finding a sense of faith, a higher power is an integral part of that. Now, did you grow up with that, or is it something you found when you started entering sobriety?
I grew up with it. Came from a Christian family. The problem with when I started taking drugs and drinking was I said, God, I will always have my relationship with you, but when I'm doing this over here, just ignore it, but I'll come back to you when I'm done. So I separated the two and didn't have, I had a different relationship with both of them, kind of a secret relationship on both sides.
Right.
And, I made the deal with God, and he obviously steered me to sobriety, because here I am doing foolish shit, getting DUIs and, just making mistakes left and right. And it just, it was really hard. But, having your faith or a higher power definitely makes you humble, and it keeps you focused on what you need to do to keep your life as good as you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Here's one that we like to ask people. Do you have any pet peeves, just little things that irk the shit out of you?
My kids.
Right. We love them, but boy, sometimes I need a break from you.
Especially during the virus. This has been a really rough year.
Yeah.
And, but you know what? I don't have any pet peeves. I don't get easily annoyed. I'm pretty easy to get along with. So I would love to tell you I do, but I don't.
Well, shit, you can have some of mine, Kurt, because I got a
Kurt, so are all 6 of the kids with you, or are your first 2 kind of intermittent between you and the ex-wife? Or, because I couldn't imagine 6 in the house at one time.
Well, no, 2 are in Tennessee. They're my older kids. And then I have 4 here in Pittsburgh. Yes.
That's even still a load full.
It is. And when the kids come up to visit, we have a full house. It's pretty crazy. It's we don't live in a really big house. So, 4 bedrooms and you got 8 people, that's pretty harsh.
Yeah. I found as a dad, especially when I was married, I often went into the bathroom, even though I didn't have to use it, just to get some time to myself. It's like, are you okay? Nah, must have ate something at lunch.
Well, you know what I do? I always, during the day, I go to the gym and work out, and I spend like 2 hours doing errands or just focusing on something else other than my family, because being here all day and night, and the kids be doing virtual school, and you just get tired of each other, and you start getting, you start arguing and nipping at each other, and so I try to keep it fresh by leaving the house for a couple hours, coming back, and hoping that the kids missed me or I missed them, which is not usually the not usually the case.
Right.
But it keeps my sanity to break away for a little bit.
Sure. All right, Kurt, what's your favorite curse word, if you use any? Some people
I would say shit.
yeah.
And
it's my second favorite.
Yeah, well, my 4-year-old daughter said it yesterday, and my wife got pissed off at me. So I need to stop saying it. I said the F word once, and she said it too. My daughter. I never say the F word, but it blurted out. I dropped something, and I went, fuck. And my little daughter said the same thing. I was like, oh my God.
See, I don't have any kids. I have 2 nephews and a niece, and we're very close. My immediate family and I, we're all super close. So when they say like, fuck, or something like that, like I have to look away because I'm trying not to laugh. You know what I mean? And I don't want to encourage them because I don't want to be that uncle. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna laugh because that'll just encourage them to do it more. And I'm also not gonna be it's like, hey, mom, dad, handle that.
Yeah, well, are you married?
I'm single, no kids.
Okay. Well,
living the dream.
Fuck in front of your kid. Your wife's gonna go nuts on you. Yeah. Just like mine did.
Yeah, because I try not to let anything fly in front of the kids, and I think their mom does too. But I remember the time, it was not that long ago. My daughter comes home. She's 10 from her friends next door, and Sophia, you're late. Dad, shit, I'm sorry. Excuse me? And I had to hold it to not laugh because it was funny coming out, my little angel.
Well, it was like second nature, like she says it all the time. Well, shit, Dad.
Oh, yeah, we had to talk.
Well, shit, Dad, my bad.
You're not saying it in front of your friends or anything, right? Okay, this is a fun one, Kurt. If you could have dinner with just one person, living or not, who would it be and why?
I've always been fascinated by Muhammad Ali.
Oh yeah, of course.
I also fascinated by Mike Tyson, but I got to meet Mike Tyson. I shot a commercial with him in October, and that was a treat for me. It was I've always been into athletes, and those two had the biggest effect on my life. I actually read both of their books, and Mike Tyson's Fire and Fear. Great book if you haven't read it. It's really cool. You learn about his history and where he came from, and it's pretty crazy. But I would love to pick Ali's brain. Just talk to him about what he did, not just as an athlete, but what he did as an ambassador, and how he self-promoted himself, and how he made his image the way he did. It's just he's a really smart guy, very intelligent, and I'd love to, pick his brain on a lot of different things in life.
Yeah. All right, Mikey, one more.
All right. What is something about you that people would be surprised to learn?
Well, I listen to Christian music. I don't really listen to anything else. I started that when I got out of rehab, and I took the K-Love challenge. And
there you go.
You try it for 30 days, and if you do for 30 days, you should be able to be a regular.
Right.
And it worked. But, the other thing is I'm a drummer.
Really?
I love playing the drum. Yeah. I did it for 25 years. So I enjoy that. I always wanted to be part of a band, but I was so busy in sport that I never had the opportunity.
Well, as a guy that came from to start the Knockin Doorz Down podcast from 20 years of a rock radio program director and on-air guy, some of the favorite bands, who some of the favorite influences?
Let me see. You talking about rock bands when I was growing up?
What got you into
Kiss.
playing Kit? Nice.
Kiss.
Bon
Love
Jovi, Van Halen, Ozzy Osbourne, a lot of rock. I turned into a pop music lover in the 90s and started listening to, just a lot of hot chicks like Paula Abdul and Janet Jackson and, Alanis Morissette. And
I love Alanis Morissette. I really do.
I loved her style. She was, she's a hippie, but she's pretty
Jagged
cool.
Little Pill. I love that album. That was cool.
It was great 90s music.
Yes. There's so much great music in the 90s, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Kurt. Well, we like to always leave the guests with the final words of encouragement for those that are either in recovery, looking to maintain their sobriety, or maybe those heading towards it, or maybe you're an inspiration to them and they got a family member. What do you want to throw out there for people?
Most important thing is if you are having a problem with alcohol and drugs, don't isolate yourself. Don't lock yourself out from other people with relationships. You need to seek help, and you're not going to do it alone. And anybody that's been hiding it and can't kick the habit, you need to tell somebody, and you need to do something about it. It's not going to go away, and it's only going to get worse, and it'll continue to get worse until you die. I mean, that's the only outcome. If you don't get off your addiction, if you don't overcome your addiction, you are going to die. And it's pretty sad that, a lot of people do isolate themselves because they don't want anybody to know that they're doing it, or they want to get high alone. But it's, you can't, you need people to help you. You need a good support system, your family, your friends, a good program, AA program. If you're looking for a rehab center, look thoroughly and see one that can relate to you the most. And I think the best advice I could give is you got to tell somebody. You can't keep this quiet. You can't keep it a secret.
Absolutely. Anything else, Mikey?
No, Kurt, thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it. It was a real pleasure talking to you. It's, you're a legend, so it's awesome to have you on here, man.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the time.